Oklahoma State football went from 3 commits in a disastrous situation to now having 15 commits and one of the best classes that I think we could have physically possibly asked for in the time frame that this staff had to pull this thing together.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
How are we feeling, Big 12 brethren? Shout out to the regulators. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your top stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms at visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at All-Day State. Today, we're partially brought to you by Game Time Tickets. Make sure that you go download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off your first purchase. Meanwhile, we get to slide into this recruiting conversation. And as of yesterday, Oklahoma State was like 155th in the country with only 3 commits. It's amazing how things have transpired throughout the course of today, culminating with the recent news of KD Batman Jones deciding to come back in the fold to Oklahoma State. But since yesterday I screwed up what would have been a remarkable, or at least a remarkably fun show, we're going to have a guest on today. Mark, we're back in this conversation about Oklahoma State football, and this time it's a lot of positivity. It's a lot of good news. First of all, how are you feeling about this class holistically? We went from 3 commits to 15 letters signed in less than 20 hours. That's a pretty big deal in my personal opinion. What say you, sir?
Yeah, I think so too. I like the class, of course. I mean, it's guys that our incoming staff had relationships with. It's guys that they thought could play at this level. And so they're bringing in, based upon the relationships they had and guys they think they can play. I always think it's important, and I believe it with all my heart. A coach is not going to bring in people that they don't think can play at this level. And so I think they got a good start. The sky's the limit. We're just getting started. We're definitely going to use their relationships to hit the transfer portal moving forward.
And that's exactly what, if you tried to tune in yesterday, yeah, my audio was all jacked up. But we were talking about how getting that flip from Eli Holbrook from Wake Forest would probably set us up for a pretty big day, because there was a decent number of guys that went through the recruiting system that loved North Texas, that loved Eric Morris, but it just wasn't a big enough opportunity. It wasn't providing enough eyeballs, and maybe perhaps even NIL was part of that equation. So getting Eli Holbrook to flip over from Wake Forest, to me, it gave us a really good indication that there were probably going to be some others. And then as it turns out today, that's exactly what's happened. We were able to flip a massive Baylor offensive lineman. And this is a very offensive line heavy class. It almost feels like he knew he was coming to Oklahoma State, and we knew we were going to need offensive line help. So he brings in 5-6 offensive line in this class. I think if you look at this, taking in consideration, Raj Murdy has only been really able to recruit on behalf of Oklahoma State for like 5 days. And so the fact that we were able to pull this class together the way that we did, and it's not just all of the North Texas dudes, right? You're able to get somebody like Braylon Presley, KD Batman Jones back into the fold, Landon Bland from Carthage up there in Kansas. We were able to solidify him and then get a bunch of these North Texas guys. And there's probably still some more JUCO dudes that are still yet to make a decision. And before we get to this class, one of the things that I mentioned in the last night's show was there was a couple of their bigger targets that were from the JUCO ranks. And I still think that here we are, midday of National Signing Day. I think there's still going to be a couple more JUCO dudes mixed in this ordeal. I'm very excited because Eric Morris is an offensive guy, right? That's what Oklahoma State is known for. And we always could get the running backs and the wide receivers, but we had a difficult time with the quarterbacks. Now we have a dude that is the greatest mind at evaluation of quarterback talent in college football right now, right? Cam Ward was a 0-star until he was discovered by Eric Morris. Drew Mestemaker didn't even really play much in high school. And the fact that Eric Morris has this lineage of NFL caliber quarterbacks is precisely why I think that this makes the most amount of sense for Oklahoma State country. Whenever you do look at this class, is there anything that surprises you?
Not exactly. And I think kind of one of the things that might be is I think the new coaches knew that they were probably coming to OSU and said, hey, maybe you're looking at Baylor, maybe North Texas wasn't a big enough draw for you, but if we get the Oklahoma State job, we're coming for you. So, maybe there's some of that went on. I'm not saying there was, but it's all about the relationships you have and who you've recruited and who you think, and at the end of the day, what kind of money you can offer them. If we can meet or beat what they're getting, maybe that's an opportunity for them. So, nothing really surprises me. I mean, I think the thing that caught us the last few years as a program is we were bringing in some of the wrong guys. We brought in some of the wrong coaches, and it cost us. And so we see what we were able to do on defense the last few weeks with the right coaching. So college football is a mix of the right coaching and the right players. And I think I'm real impressed with the start that this new coaching staff has gotten on the recruiting trail.
So let's go over this class. We mentioned KD Batman-Jones. We're going to revert back to him in a minute. But Braden Presley, right, he sticks in that Presley line of Oklahoma State Cowboys. He's stayed steady throughout the recruiting process. Then one of the individuals that I talked about last night was Kole Seaton, a big 6'5", 275-pound offensive tackle from Mesquite, Texas. He's been committed to Baylor. That was a big-time flip that we got. Obviously, Landon Bland is kind of like Braden Presley, stayed loyal for a long time. G.T. Ware is probably one of the fastest wide receivers in the country. So the fact that he's coming to Oklahoma State to kind of piggyback off of some of the success we've seen out of Brendan Presley, Gavin Freeman, Jabari Thornton, one time committed to Oklahoma State, decommitted to go to North Texas. He's back as a Cowboy. We talked about Eli Holbrook on last night's show and how that was probably opening the doors. We got Torian Davis, 6'2", 230-pound linebacker from Mississippi Gulf Community College. Orion Mosley was one of the North Texas dudes that decided to stick with it and come on over, 6'3", 320-pounder out of Houma, Louisiana. We just got an interior offensive lineman, Isaiah Bowman, 6'3", 275 pounds from Conway, Arkansas. His coach and his offensive line coach is a legend, so he's going to be ahead of the curve. So hopefully if he's enrolling early, that'd be big for Oklahoma State. We got L. Davis, a 6', 195-pound corner from Humboldt, Texas. We got Mark Brown III, a 6'1", 180-pound safety from Corsicana, Texas. Jaquan Evans, 6'5", 295-pound offensive tackle from Shawnee, Oklahoma. Broderick Veers, a 6', 185-pound gunslinger with an absolute cannon. And then Nigel Farsi. Again, I do think that there's a couple more JUCO guys that could join this class. And then we also have the February time frame to pay attention to. But I wanted to go back around. You mentioned, they had established relationships with most of these individuals. Yes, because half of this class was the North Texas class originally, which makes you feel kind of bad for North Texas. We just completely gutted their staff and their upcoming recruiting class. We might be gutting their current roster as well. But KD Batman-Jones, I wanted to circle back around on this one. Yeah, I took it on the chin when I said that it was a weak sauce move for him to commit to KU so quickly. But at the end of the day, he is the best player in the state of Oklahoma. And here's the biggest part here. I know KU and Tennessee were offering significantly more than Oklahoma State. So he's truly making this decision because this is where he wants to be. And that has to have all of us singing crazy tunes of excitement because, dude, what KD Batman-Jones has done at Jinx is absolutely massive. For him to come back into the fold this way, I think it bodes well for Eric Morse and the staff because it was probably one of those few players that they hadn't had a previously established relationship with. So what are your thoughts on some of the Oklahoma kids and the fact that we did go from a top 25 class, losing a bunch of the Oklahoma kids, to getting some of them back in the fold at the end, buddy?
Well, I think it kind of goes into, like, who did you hire? What kind of coach, what kind of reputation does he come with? Were the recruits excited about the guy you brought in? Do they see that he's done well where he's been? Is he going to come in and win? And from getting these guys back, I think that's what it tells us. These coaches, these players, they believe that OSU is going to be back in the mix of where we've been for the last 20 years, and I think it says a lot about our coaching staff. In the players' eyes, it seems like we hired the right person.
Well, and it's also a testament, right? We've seen some North Texas fans that at one point in time were pretending that it's a lateral move for him to go from North Texas to Oklahoma State.
That's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, but at the same point in time, I understand that North Texas, before Eric Morris, the previous 3 years, they went 3-29. So a large portion of their fans have probably grown over the last couple of years. And in that time, Oklahoma State's been absolutely horrendous. So some of the new North Texas fans probably do genuinely look at Oklahoma State and say, they can't win 1 or 2 ball games. Why would he make that move? But I think that this is a reason why. Whenever you're getting Baylor dudes to flip, that means they like North Texas from the get-go. North Texas just wasn't big enough. The same could be said whenever you're getting Wake Forest flips and Kansas flips. A lot of these guys really liked Eric Morris in North Texas. It just wasn't a big enough opportunity. That is why Eric Morris took this job. So nothing against North Texas. It is a big jump. I correlated it when Jim Knowles left. Were we sad? Yeah. Were we mad? Not really, because he left for Ohio State, right? So as sad as we were going to be, it made sense. And this makes
absolutely
sense. And it's nice that Eric Morris now has that validation. When you see all these Power 4 flips to Oklahoma State that Oklahoma State wasn't even recruiting, that is because of that Eric Morris relationship. And if North Texas was the same size as Oklahoma State, they would have all of these dudes.
Yeah, and on the offensive line side, offensive line's probably one of those ones where you take some freshmen that you think, hey, when we develop these guys, they're going to develop into players that we can start, year 3 and year 4. It's going to be a place where you'll focus in high school recruiting as you try to develop the right guys into the program. But and so I think them taking the amount of offensive line that they took this year is a big deal, and they feel like they took the right guys, not just any guys. So yeah, these big flips they're big, and what's going to help us moving forward is winning games next year and putting the program. Finishing out the class with the right junior college guys, the right transfer portal guys, and really turning the page with this team offensively, and putting some wins together and proving that Oklahoma State's back.
I think we're on the right trajectory. We're on the right path. I have a lot of faith in Raj Murdy, the new general manager that's coming over. I feel like at the end of the day, the fact that we pulled this thing together in a matter of a handful of days is a very big ordeal, and it should have us primed and positioned to be competitive next year. But the coaching staff, as all about 97, 98% of them have been let go, but not everybody. There's still hope, and that's a good thing because there was a few coaches that proved they probably deserve more opportunities. We'll get to that real quick in segment 2. Before we get to that, ladies and gentlemen, I do have to remind the fine folks out here that holiday season is here. Gift giving needs to happen. Omaha Steaks is the best in the business. Whenever you're talking about your holiday seasons, you don't have to always get sizes correct whenever you're getting the right gift. Omaha Steaks is just that. They make the gift giving so simplistic. They deliver handcrafted perfection right to your door, whether you're ordering for yourself or family or friends. And this week is the best time for you to jump in because their cyber sale is here. The deals are huge. The quality is exactly what you hope for. Incredibly tender steaks, rich flavor, and meals that make hosting or even a weeknight extravaganza that much better. The variety is underrated. Steaks, burgers, comfort meals, sides, desserts, all of that can be shipped directly to your door. So make sure that you save on the unforgettable gifts with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide and an extra 20% off of select favorites during the cyber sale. And for an additional $35 off, make sure that you use the promo code COLLEGE at checkout. Head on over to omahasteaks.com. Use that promo code COLLEGE. Terms apply. See site for details. Get the Omaha Steaks delivered for your family just in time for the best holiday gift of all time. All right, buddy. Now we get to roll into segment 2 here, and it does currently appear as though that we've got a couple coaches, primarily Clint Bowen, that still has an opportunity, and I think that is definitely deserved. There's another coach, Coach Fatah, has previous working experience with Eric Morris in special teams department, so perhaps that's another current Oklahoma State coach that could find a new home with the staff. But when you look back, Clint Bowen absolutely deserves an opportunity, correct?
Clint Bowen was really, really good. I mean, from the time he took over, there was talks about the guys just not even knowing how to line up right and not being in the right position. And we saw that in a game against Oregon. I mean, after watching that Oregon game, we probably thought that Oregon was going to score 50 points on everyone. And we found out that they really didn't. And so he came in and really kind of comes back to like what happened at Oklahoma State. We hired the wrong defensive coordinator. We hired the wrong offensive coordinator. I think Johns proved that he's the real deal too.
Yep.
You know, just too many turnovers, not enough big play, talent out there at times, especially at the quarterback position. And I don't like to beat up college guys, but we didn't have the answer there. It looked like even when our offensive line looked better with Johns. We had better play calling. We looked a lot better. We just weren't putting the points on the board. And then our defense, Coach Bowen, man, oh my gosh, that guy's the real deal. He's on the level of some of the really good guys that have coached defense with no depth at all and just kind of plugged guys in that didn't look real good before he took over. So, yeah, Bowen proved he's the real deal. We didn't lose games at the end of the year because of our defense. And
No.
What he did, that'll go down in history at Oklahoma State of what a guy did with not a lot to work with, but just guys that believed, guys that were continue to play hard. I am sold on that coach right there.
Well, and he did a lot of it with the backups, right? The guys who played the best at the end of the season were not the guys who started the first 3 weeks.
That's a great point, yeah.
And you're 100% right. I firmly believe that Todd Grantham and bringing all of those SEC dudes and the SEC coaches and that SEC flavor was going to, be the right formula for success in Stillwater. But unfortunately, it was an absolute disaster. And I think now that the season's over, we can discuss the fact that it was very contentious, right? You had Doug Meacham getting chest to chest with Todd Grantham in the middle of practices, and that's the way it was coordinated. The defensive guys were isolated from the offensive guys, and it was more like a competition instead of coming together as a team, and that was because of the coaches, and we couldn't have foreseen that coming in, right?
Yeah.
It was a gamble. Doug Meacham clearly is a very good, offensive mind, but running the entire operation was a little bit too difficult because his first game running everything, didn't we have like 4 delay of games? Yeah. And we used all 6 timeouts like super, super early in the first and third quarters. And so kudos to him for handing the keys to Kevin John.
Yeah.
And that's part of it, right? Being a good boss is about delegation of responsibility. So because of that, I do hope that Doug Meacham gets an opportunity to coach at least inside wide receivers again at Oklahoma State. That continuity is going to be big. But speaking of continuity, dude, Greg Richmond could be coming back home. And ironically enough, Greg Richmond was right. Like, how close I am with Brian Nardo. And Greg Richmond was right, though. The Brian Nardo system with the current roster was never going to work. So the fact that Greg Richmond likely gets to come back home to kind of right some wrongs is absolutely perfect. And that's got to be a perfect recipe for Eric Morris as well, right? Somebody who understands Oklahoma State, the culture. They've been here, they played here, recruited here, coached here, the whole 9 yards. So if you can keep Coach Bowen, if you can get Coach G. Rich in, if you can keep a Doug Meacham, I think that offers the best of both worlds for cohesiveness going into the offseason.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I didn't hear much about the Greg Richmond thing. You want to expound upon that any at all? His story, what happened, what went down?
Evidently, Greg Richmond was telling too many donors at like banquets, golf tournaments, things of that nature about how the Brian Nardo system was not going to work. And he said it to the wrong people. It got back to Gundy. Gundy viewed it as I don't know what the professional verbiage would be, but insubordination to some degree, right?
Yeah.
Like I completely understand. I would assume that Gundy probably pulled him into the office and was like, dude, why are you running around telling everybody that gives the university money that we're not going to be successful? Like, why would you do that? And it led to what it was. But at the end of the day, Greg Richmond was right.
Yeah.
Brian Nardo's system with the current roster was not going to work. Greg Richmond's problem is he probably just said it to the wrong people at the wrong time, and it got back to Gundy in the wrong way.
Yeah, sounds like it. And by the way, Greg Richmond, pound for pound, the best defensive end to ever play at Oklahoma State. 245 can really just get after the passer. Man, what a great – I hope he comes back. I'd love to see him back in Orange, yeah.
Well, all indications seem to be if Coach Skylar Cassidy, defensive coordinator, is coming over, G-Rich would be coming with him, which I think is remarkable because they've got a true freshman defensive end that plays a lot this year. They've got 2 defensive tackles. One of them's a junior, one of them's a sophomore. If you get those 3 guys, and let's say you can be able to keep a Sidvini Havili-Kavusi, Deshaun Brown, Jaleel Johnson, I think that's a very good, merging of 2 different styles to have a lot of success. And we know how successful G-Rich can be, right? Because if you go back and look at the Brock Martin, Brennan Evers years, that was all G-Rich, right? Yeah. G-Rich's thing is, he's always been about certain fronts and things of that nature. And, whatever he can provide, I think is going to be huge for Oklahoma State. All right, before we get to segment 3 here, I wanted to mention there's a couple other coaches that I hope get an opportunity, and one of those being Coach Bassett, right? The offensive line got better, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's one of the few positions on the field where you clearly saw improvement throughout the course of the season. And another one of those that the guys who started the season as the starting unit didn't end up being the starting unit, and we got progressively better. Having 3 O-line coaches, maybe that's not a necessity. Naturally, North Texas probably going to bring over their O-line coach, but I surely hope that if we're going to allow Clint Bowen to find a space within the new staff, surely Cooper Bassett is another one of those individuals because he can probably coach a multitude of positions, not just on the offense side of the ball because he played the end at O State. Is there any other coaches that come to mind that you think, other than maybe a Kevin Johns, that should get another crack here in Stillwater?
Well, I don't know. A lot of these guys were new. I didn't really follow a lot of them. Hopefully Bassett can get another opportunity. Johns, of course, I like him. Bowen. And maybe that just leaves some room, Oklahoma State having more coaches, the number of offensive line coaches we had this last year, maybe that opens up a spot for the guys that I really would like to keep, including Coach Bowen and Coach Johns and Bassett. So really, I don't know a lot of the newer guys that came in. So.
Gotcha. Well, another one of those coaches that I thought did exceed expectations was Ryan Osborne. But if Greg Richmond's coming in, then obviously Ryan Osborne has to go elsewhere. Jules Montanar, I think you saw the development this year out of Eric Fletcher at cornerback, LaDainian Fields at cornerback, Kenneth Harrison Jr. got to see a completely different side of him this season. Dean Marlowe being a safeties coach that just came from the NFL that literally would put his cleats on and go to work with the dudes. I'm sure that helped a lot, but Jules Montanar might be another individual from the quarterback room that we saw enough development. Ryan Osborne, defensive line coach, Corey Patterson, the running back room. It was kind of a hodgepodge. Speaking of that, before we do slide to segment 3 here, do you think there's any concern that coming to a last-minute deal with Katie Batman Jones, and if Caleb Hawkins, the 1,100-yard running back from North Texas, comes over, do you think that maybe means that Rodney Fields might be on the outside looking in now?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. I really hope not. I know I've got some people that are close to his family. Haven't really talked to him about it, but man, he's got the juice. He's got the quickness. I don't think that at any level he would be the odd man out. I think he would be probably priority at top 2 or 3 priority to keep in our current roster. So I don't think that at all.
I would hope so. Yeah, I gave him the offensive MVP when we did the end of the season kind of show. I think the only other viable option for offensive MVP maybe could have been Shamar Rigby, or Gavin Freeman.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see if Gavin Freeman comes back, right? Because if Wyatt Young comes over, unless we're going to run 4 wide receiver sets, which they do sometimes at North Texas, it'll be interesting to see if Gavin Freeman and Shamar Rigby have extended roles with the new roster. Because if we're talking about coaches that deserve more opportunities, Rodney Fields, absolutely. Wendell Gregory, for sure. LaDainian Fields, Eric Fletcher. I think that we have more talent on this roster than people think nationally. And I think we got to see some of that because of Coach Clint Bowen, because of Doug Meacham, Kevin Johns. So it'll be interesting, man. But at the end of the day, I have a lot of faith in Coach Eric Morris. If he says that a quarterback is good to go, then we should believe him. It's like that three-star quarterback that he just got from Arizona. I don't know if you've had the chance to watch a little bit of his film. The dude's got a cannon, an absolute cannon. And again, if Eric Morris and his staff is saying that, yeah, he's good enough to play at this level, you have to believe him, which is the only downside you could have said about Gundy for a long time is Mike Gundy would build phenomenal rosters, and he was a great coach, but he always seemed to choose the wrong quarterback, right? That was only limitation in Mike Gundy's tenure until the last 2 years was the quarterback. So I'm sure Eric Morris, right? If you're looking at the opportunities, you're going to get running backs, you're going to get wide receivers. I can bring the quarterbacks, right? And now you have Raj Murthy to coordinate the GM stuff and the finances. I think Oklahoma State's in a remarkable position. It just sucks that it took 2 disastrous years to get where we are now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But we're hopeful, and it looks like we should be in a pretty good spot moving forward.
I think so. And, I'll tell you another thing. It's nice that we have some excitement around football, while basketball is really, really pretty daggone good. The ladies take to the court here in just a little while. Men stay perfect for the first time since 2006. So we're going to talk about that right around the corner here. But real quick, before we do that, I have to remind you fine folks out here that it's time to capitalize. FanDuel is the bee's knees for all of your betting needs, and Game Time is your capitalization spot for everything tickets related. Right now, Game Time is welcoming back the World Cup to North America for the first time since 1994. And with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be a massive ordeal for us all to potentially experience. But sometimes getting tickets is more difficult than the match taking play on the pitch, as they'd say. That's why Game Time is so clutch. It finally gives fans the real advantage when it comes to snagging the best seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands, and it makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. You pull up the app, and the layout makes it so simple to scroll through the matchups and compare seat views. You pick a game, tap a section, and have your tickets locked in within minutes. No confusion, no hunting for fine print. Prices include fees up front, which you're going to love, so that means no surprise fees at checkout. Alerts for terms and matches make it easy to grab tickets the moment they drop instead of missing out. So take the guesswork out of you buying World Cup tickets or football game tickets, concerts, music, theater. Doesn't matter. Game Time has you covered. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, download the app, create that account, and use that code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off. It's simple. You swipe, tap, ticket, and go to download Game Time tickets. All right, buddy. The Cowboys get a 10-point dub last night, powered by the big man himself, Parsifala's 24 points. This team does a lot of things well. The only thing we didn't do well was defend the perimeter, as we did allow Sam Houston to hit 14 three-pointers, but we dominated down in the paint. We had more turnovers, or got more turnovers, had more rebounds. We paid at our pace of play, and we got a W to be undefeated for the first time since 2006, or start the season 8-0 for the first time since 2006, and it's our first 8-game win streak since 2016. You've been watching Cowboy hoops. You're a basketball dude. This runs through your veins. What do you think about this Steve Lutz-led club, buddy, man?
Well, man, he can coach, and he's got some players that can flat out play. This is the most talent we've also had since 2006. This team is talented. They can shoot. They play well together. We've got several scorers. We've got inside presence. Several games we've got multiple players, 4 or 5 guys in double figures. They play good defense. They all know their roles, and And basketball is all about coaching and all about getting the right players. And we've got the right coach and we've got the right players, man. I'm excited about this season. It's nice to have something to be excited about on the men's side of athletics and the two major sports. So, despite the football tragedy this last year, I mean, using that word lightly, there's some excitement. I think this is, there's some guys that are probably thinking, you know what, I'm going to renew my tickets, with a new start and really excited to get up there and be able to watch some of these bigger games with the Cowboy basketball team.
The Sam Houston attendance did seem better. So it feels like we're kind of getting there. But whenever you look at this team and you compare it to, say, the 2006 team, I actually think that this squad has more depth, right? So that 06 squad, Mario Bogans averaged 19 points a game. James On Curry averaged 17 points a game. Obi Manello averaged a little over 10 points a game. Byron Eaton was just under 10 points a game. I think that this team has more depth than that squad, right? Maybe you don't have Mario Bogans level talent, but the depth and the ability to do a multitude of things is really what strikes me, right? Jalen Curry off the dribble is an absolute massive problem. But Kanye Cleary, the other point guard, he's a phenomenal distributor of the basketball. So it's hard to game plan, right? If you game plan to stop Kanye Cleary and then Jalen Curry comes in, he is so fast getting to the lane. They're completely different. And then the bigs, Parsifala has been a remarkable addition. Andre Vukovic, he's probably the most improved player from last year's team by far and away. And then you have Lefters. Montezukis can come in. He's more of a three-point shooting dude, but as we noticed last night, he got a couple rebounds and had a couple putbacks at the very end of the game to win. And I want to get your input on this. What makes a good free throw shooting team, dude? Because Mike Boynton and Travis Ford could never, ever figure that out. Yet this is 2 games in a row that we've had to hit our last 10, 11 free throws to win, and we're doing it. Like, what makes – we know that the stat trackers for last year, they shot millions of free throws, but we were terrible. This team shoots significantly less free throws in practice, but they're way better. Why does that happen?
It's form, it's confidence, it's tweaks, little tweaks in coaching. When I coached basketball, high school basketball, I would tweak a kid's shot a little bit. And free throws are the easiest thing to fix. No one's guarding you. It's all in the legs for me. And so I just think we probably have a coach on staff that's a little bit better at tweaking the little things at the free throw line. And that's something that's not real hard to do.
Okay, another question for you. Our only Achilles heel at the moment seems to be our perimeter defending. How do you kind of fix that? Because in last night's game, you could see Steve Lutz was jumping in Anthony Roy's tail end for being lazy, essentially, right? Because there was a multiple times where they would hit threes and it was Anthony Roy's guy and Anthony Roy's over there by the paint and doesn't pop out. Is that just an effort thing, or, how do you see the perimeter defense getting better?
It's an effort thing, but it's also just, what your mindset is. Is our mindset to run people off the 3-point line and make our defense play help defense if we get beat off the dribble? It's just really like, where do you want to get beat at? And so it's a help defense issue. It's we're going to play them. We're going to play so much up in their short that they're going to have to put the ball on the ground. They're going to have to beat us off the dribble to do anything because we're going to be so close to them when they catch the ball on the 3-point line. So, I can break down the defense if you want me to, but it's just really like what your game plan is. Are we saying we're going to run these guys off the 3-point line and make them beat us off the dribble and then use our help defense? Just kind of. And I think, once we get into, the conference play, it's hard to really get up for a Sam Houston. You think you're really good. You've won. You've not lost. You've got Sam Houston coming in and, it's just little tweaks in coaching. The bigger the game gets, the more intense it'll be, the better the defense we'll see. So I'm not real worried about it, but I did, looking at the score, you're like, hey man, do we play any defense at all? And I think that's not going to be an issue moving forward. You'll either play defense or you'll come sit down, like when Eddie Sutton was at Stillwater. You didn't play defense, you sat down.
So I'm actually really glad you expounded upon that, because where my mind went directly was the Cowgirls game against St. John's. Their defensive plan was to run us off the 3-point line. They didn't give a crap what happened down low, and it was a perfect recipe for them, because it's the Cowgirls' only loss on the season, and that was a concerted effort. They clearly had a game plan of, we're not going to let the Cowgirls, the number one 3-point shooting team in America, we're not going to let them shoot threes. And that's precisely what happened. And we lost that ball game because we didn't have, a way to combat that. And so thank you for giving me that visual picture, because that's exactly what St. John's did. And they weren't, so they were trying to, I'm not a basketball dude, so help me out here. By running them off the 3-point line, what they were trying to get O-State Cowgirls to do was move more down low, and then we got in a bunch of foul trouble, and it worked out. Their plan worked perfectly. Is that about right?
Well, yeah, and you can't trade threes for twos. I mean, my high school team my son played on last year, they're trading twos for threes, and so it's just not a recipe. So when you guard the 3-point line, and it's like hand down, man down, hand down, man down. You're in trouble if you give anybody space. Everyone can shoot, so you can't give them any space. And so, a lot of people play defense where, if I don't want them to beat me off the dribble, and so you have to sacrifice. Like, what are we trying to do? What's worse? Do we want to get beat off the dribble, or do we want to give up more open threes? So I'm always about running people off the 3-point line.
Well, I would imagine that's exactly what the North Texas lady squad is trying to do to Oklahoma State today, is run them off the 3-point line. Ironically enough, the Cowgirls are in Denton, Texas, going to tip off here in the next 20 minutes or so. Dude, they play very different on the road than they do at home. If you could explain some of that for us all. Is it just about getting the camaraderie together and figuring out, what other defenses are trying to do against you? Because at home, we're dominating. We're destroying people. Every road game has been pretty daggone close, even in the ones that shouldn't be. Now, we're still 7-1, but at the same point in time, we're a completely different team on the road. What comes into the mental makeup of that stuff?
Well, it probably comes down to just kind of getting into the season. I mean, this is the time of the year where you're going to start at this point in the schedule. You're going to start to face adversity. And then you have to learn how to play on the road. You have to learn how to travel. You have to learn how to get your legs underneath you, try to get some sleep, whether you're in a bus, whether you're in a plane, if you're in a hotel. You just got to get into a routine, because every year, as we see in college basketball, it's a new team, new roster, new structure. And so just kind of getting into that. I mean, there's not a lot of things to be real worried about this early in the season. We're between after Christmas break, we get into January, you really start getting in a flow, kind of your time off when Thanksgiving and Christmas is all over. And then you're racing towards the postseason and March Madness. So it's just kind of getting into a routine.
Well, hopefully we can get it done tonight, because North Texas country is going to show out for that one. Since we gutted their roster, gutted their staff, gutted their recruiting class, this is their opportunity to get a little bit of get back at Oklahoma State country. So I'm sure that North Texas is going to be swinging for the fences for the Cowgirls this evening. Anyhow, buddy, I think we'll touch back whenever we get some more of this recruiting thing figured out. Because again, I think we still got a couple JUCO dudes that may jump into the fold. We've got another day or two here. And then we have the February edition. So it's going to be extremely exciting. We don't know all the staff that's going to come to North Texas. So we're going to have a ton to talk about football-wise. I greatly appreciate your time, as always, Mark. Let the fine folks know how they can find you, because you had some issues recently on X. Somebody hacked your account or something to that effect, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I get hacked all the time, and so I just had to make a new account. No one really follows me at my new Mark Price 405. But that's okay. I'm not on it much. You got a lot going on business wise, and but always watching the Cowboys and the Thunder, and always love talking about Oklahoma State. And So looking forward to our next conversation as we get into Big 12 basketball play. So
I love it. Matter of fact, dude, we'll have to link up. I need to go down. I need to hit Gal Gribe at some point this
well,
season.
let me know when you're coming up, and I got some pretty good tickets.
Too easy, buddy. Well,
Yeah,
I greatly appreciate your time as always. We will reconvene whenever we get the class and staff and everything sorted out, and we'll do this thing again. Mark, as always, thank you very much for your time.
Absolutely.
Everybody, make sure you go follow Mark's new X account. Hopefully, it doesn't get disappeared on him again. And for all of you fine folks out here, thank you so much as well for tuning in to make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere, so happy you choose to be here. Do me a favor, hit the like button if you liked it, dislike if you didn't, that's okay too. More importantly, share, comment, and subscribe. My podcast and people out there, you're everything that makes this work. I appreciate what you do. Go do what you do. Hit the stars, leave some reviews. All right, y'all. Later, taters.